We are happy to welcome you all here to the Leelavati Prize Lecture of the Seoul ICM 2014. My name is Yong-Hoon Lee, the President-elect of the Korean Mathematical Society. It is my great pleasure and honor to be the chair of Leelavati Prize Lecture tonight. The Leelavati Prize is intended to recognize and appreciate outstanding contributions to the increasing public awareness of mathematics. Professor Adrian Paenza is awarded this prize for his contributions that changed the way the general public perceive mathematics. He accomplished this through his books, his TV shows, and his enthusiasm of communicating the beauty and the joy of mathematics. Professor Paenza is a mathematician and a journalist. He received his PhD degree from the University of Buenos Aires in Argentina, and has been teaching there since then. He has written 8 books on popularizing mathematics, including the worldwide bestseller series, Math, Are You There? Professor Paenza has been the host of the long-running weekly TV program, Scientists Made in Argentina. The program consists of interviews with mathematicians and scientists with different disciplines and ends with a mathematical problem. The solution of this problem is given in the next program. The format is something like a sports program with quizzes and answers, very innovative. He has also been the host of a weekly half-hour show altered by Pi, which is exclusively dedicated to the popularization of mathematics. As we have seen so far, his contribution to math popularization is beyond description. It is a great honor to have him deliver the Leelavati Prize Lecture here at Seoul ICM 2014. The title of his lecture is The Wrong Door. Please welcome Professor Adrian Paenza.
Well, good evening, everyone. As you can see there, well, this is the first thing that had to happen. I had to drop my pen. Thank you for coming. It's a great honor for me to be here. And I will try to tell you my story. I won't speak of mathematics because I'm not qualified for that. What I'm going to do is tell you my journey with math, which is an incredible journey of one of the most beautiful things that life has, one of the most beautiful, if not the best science that we have, and unfortunately, for whatever the reason, people don't perceive it that way. So I want to tell you my story. Some of the things that I'm going to say are going to be probably controversial, if nothing else, because they're going to be my opinions. So they're always open to be debated, and that's good. That's what we should do. The first thing that happened to me when I got to Seoul, and I got here 2 or 3 days ago, I was talking to Ona, Ona is a South Korean professor, a friend that I have here, and we were members of a jury last year in Rhode Island in the United States. And the first thing that really surprised me is the way that people here do calculations. And I'm going to write the discussion that I had with Ona. I was trying to see how do you divide, not here, I'm going to do it here. How do you divide 25 divided by 5? And she told me that 25 divided by 5 here in Korea is 5. And I was surprised, because for me, 25 divided by 5 is 14. And I explained it to her. See, 1 times 5 is 5. Then we subtract here, we get 20. Then 14 times 5, 4 times 5 is 20. That shows 14. And Ona looked at me saying, and you're going to give the lecture? Are you sure? And I said, so Ona was trying to be generous with me. So she says, Adrian, 5 times 5 is 25. I said, you're wrong. Look at this. 14 times 5 is 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. You add and you get 25. At this point, Ona was totally discouraged. She didn't know what to do. She was calling the police, but I said, well, give me a second. So this is what she wrote. She said, let me show you something. If you add 5 times 14, you'll see what happens. And I said, go ahead. So she started. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 is 12, 16, 20. And I said, yes, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. See? We got it. So I realized there that we have a difference. Well, anyway, I assume that you understand that we do math anywhere in the world the same way. And one of the things that is strange, but look at this, the alphabet, we cannot read Korean. But the only thing that we have in common are the numbers. So everybody understands that there is a universal way of communicating. No matter what the language, the numbers are always understood no matter where. And then what I wanted to do is start showing the story of a couple of ironies, things that happen in life that are very ironic to me. Look at what happens when I'm going to speak about irony number 1. A kid is born, and in the first 12 months of his life, or her life, what they learn, we want to teach them how to walk and how to speak, how to talk. That's the first 12 months. The following 12 years, we want them to be quiet and silent. That's crazy. We teach them to do something and then we don't want them to do it. And then it comes irony number 2. In the first 4 or 5 years of their existence, the kids learn, it's an incredible amount of things. They'll learn how to speak, they'll learn how to talk, they'll learn how to play, they learn how to relate with other people, they learn how to talk to their siblings, how to play with friends, how to play with themselves, and they learn everything on their own. And all of a sudden, someday, very unfortunate for them, we tell them, now you have to go to school. Why? Why do I have to go to school if they could speak, they would say, I learned everything I know until today, I didn't have to go anywhere. Why do you want to take me now to school? What is school? You have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, you have homework, you have, why? And that would be a spectacular opportunity for our science, for mathematics. Because what kids want to do is play. And mathematics has all the tools to show them that we can play, that they can still play, like magicians. What do magicians do with the kids and with adults? They mesmerize them. They puzzle them. They pique their interest. They want, and kids are like in awe. And mathematics has those type of tools too. But what I find is that we show them the wrong door. We don't show them the right way to get to mathematics. We are buried in a lot of technicalities and things that it's like saying, for instance, assume that the person has never made a phone call. And before they start making the call, you tell them, okay, but you have to learn all the country codes, all the city codes, all the area codes, and you have to learn the phone book. Once you know that, then you will make your first phone call. No, it doesn't work that way. If nothing else, what math should do, what mathematicians should do, is get more involved in saying, wait a second, what we are doing is wrong. Nobody gets into a restaurant through the kitchen. Nobody gets into a house through the bathroom. But naturally, you have to show the kids, you have to seduce them, to engage them. And how do you do that? You have to show them. And let me tell you here something that I've been thinking, and I've been repeating this over the years. This is a story that I heard through who happens to be now the boss or the chair of the Department of Mathematics at the University of Buenos Aires. He told me a story of a group of a series of episodes that were written in the former Czechoslovakia. And listen to the story. There was a little town, and there was a king who had a daughter, but the daughter was getting old, was aging, and nobody wanted to marry her. And he was concerned that the daughter couldn't find nobody to marry. So finally, the king goes and says to one of his assistants, make everybody know that my daughter is going to be waiting for all the pretenders that are going to be in a long line, and she will be sitting on a chair, and she will see what they can do, their abilities. Show her what they can do. When she finds one that she likes, she's going to give her hand. I'm going to give her hand to whomever is the best of all the candidates. So every episode that was like a little movie, short movie, 5-minute movie, was showing what each candidate would do. So the first episode, you see a contortionist. There's a long line, the first one, the princess is sitting there, and this contortionist moves his body, does a lot of strange things. The princess, nothing. End of the first episode. Second episode, there is a very wealthy person. He comes with a huge bag, a lot of coins, gold coins. And he displays all the coins on the floor and looks at her like saying, here, this could be all for you. Nothing. Third episode, there is a magician. And this magician has rabbits and, I don't know, doves, everything like birds, beautiful things. With cards, nothing. Then there is an acrobat. And the acrobat starts juggling up balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, nothing. And at that point, one starts wondering, what does she want? What does this princess want? Nothing seems to touch her. And the line was getting shorter and shorter and shorter until in the last episode, when there is only one remaining candidate, this candidate was a very short guy. He was having a backpack. When it's his turn, he goes where the princess is, opens his backpack, pulls out a pair of eyeglasses, and gives it to the princess. She puts them on, and she smiles. And he marries her. So what was the problem? The problem is not that she didn't appreciate what they were doing. She couldn't see. She couldn't see anything. So how could she react like mesmerized or something if she didn't see anything? Well, that's what we do with math. We have to show people what math is. What we're doing is something wrong. That is not mathematics. It's not that it's not part of mathematics. It is. But don't begin there because we are going to fail. And that is what has happened up till this point. Now, what do we do for that? How do we attack that problem? There is one thing, people hate mathematics. And why? I mean, the general population. So there are two groups. The group of the vast majority who hate math, and then it seems to be that there is a privileged group of people who really like it. Now, the ones who enjoy math also like to feel, well, you know, because they look at us like those are the nerds, those are the intelligent ones, those are the people that are different, those get it. But nobody says with being more proud, like a badge of honor, math is not for me, nothing to do with it. And why? Because in schools and in general, we give answers to questions that the kids didn't ask. Kids are not dumb. People here, do you know how to drive a car? You would say that you know how to drive a car. But at some point, you had to be taught how to drive a car. Well, when we are sitting in the car for the first, second, third time, and we have someone here, the person usually loses his or her patience and starts screaming and abusing. But why do we tolerate that? We do it because in the end, we understand that we are better off knowing how to drive than not knowing. With mathematics, we don't see that. We are told stories about things that we don't know, that we are given answers to questions that we didn't ask. Not only that, then we have to go home and we have to do our homeworks. Then we are desperate. And we go to our folks, to our father, mother, and say, why do I have to study this? And the father and mother, they don't know what to say because they didn't know when it was their time. So what do? They say, you know what, you're going to learn this later. Just wait. And when does later arrive? Because usually, I don't know if you have seen, but there are lots of people that have invested a lot of time trying to learn something and they have never used it. In life, first we have problems. Then we look for solutions. In schools, especially in mathematics, not to say in general, I don't know, but in mathematics we have the other way around. First we give them solutions, like a theory, and then say, well, this is where you apply it, or in what situations you apply it. What? What? And we see kids, what they want to do is they would like to play with a video game, or with some robot, or encoding a message, something that has to do with their daily concerns, things that happen to them. Mathematics has a branch called game theory, and we ignore it. I learned about game theory when I was at the university. So that means I was already more than an adolescent. That's wrong. That's wrong. And what happens in school leaves a huge imprint in our lives. And I want to bring two stories. The first story, and this is important for you to come with me in this path. I used to teach at the University of Buenos Aires, at the Faculty of Exact Science and Natural Sciences, and follow me with this calculation. The classes were 800 students in the average per semester. In a year is 1,600, 1,600. In 30 years, was more, but say 30. If you multiply 30 by 1,600, you get 48,000 students. Let's assume that I exaggerate. Let's talk, instead of 50,000, a half, 25,000. I've seen it all. I've seen people who came to school thinking that they were the stars, and then they couldn't progress. And there were others that were just very shy, and they were brilliant. Society is always looking for the winners, and that is associated with mathematics. Whomever gets it is like someone who's different. But why? Society is always looking to give an award to the guy who arrives first, who jumps higher, who runs faster. And what happens with the second, or the fifth, or the 23rd? Or let's say that we're talking about probably all the population with a few exceptions. So we'll leave them behind. In school, when we speak with math, when we introduce math by the right doors, there are words that shouldn't be included. Never no, always yes. There's no room for failing. Kids cannot fail. There's no room to the word failing or the concept of failing. What do you mean failing? I am trying. Encourage me. Help me. Coach me. Show me where I have my questions. Mathematicians should, and in schools, we should show that math is built with patterns, with structures, with puzzles. That's what we should show. Show that it's like a sea of information. And we have the tools of sprinkle. And some of the things that we don't see is like foggy. All of a sudden, in front of our eyes, it's shown there. It appears like something different, something new. But we have to play. We have to play with them. We have to show them that we don't know. And I know that this system works. So I'm going to play a 3-minute video here to show you what we do in Argentina with some of the kids. Can we play the video for a second? Well, for 3 minutes, not a second. La matemática es sinónimo de todos los momentos menos felices de nuestro paso por la escuela. Es sinónimo de aburrimiento, de exigencia. ¿No es eso lo que siente un alumno cuando empieza una clase de matemáticas? Yo estoy convencido de que lo que hay que enseñar en el primer contacto con la matemática es justamente la matemática del juego, la matemática recreativa. Con la matemática hay que jugar y ahí vamos. Hola.
안녕하세요. 자, 오늘 학교에서 점심이 제공되었나요? 손을 한번 들어보세요. 학교에서 급식을 통해 점심을 먹은 사람 손 들어보세요. 학교에서 정말 여러분들 식사 잘 주네요. 대단합니다. 겉으로는 그렇게 보이지 않는다 하더라도 수학은 정말 논리적입니다. 밧줄이 얼마나 필요한지 잘 보세요. 트랙터 바퀴에 밧줄을 묶으려면 얼마만큼의 밧줄이 필요할까요? 자, 학생, 바로 그 학생. 뒤로 한번 돌아볼래요? 준비됐나요? 붉은색 입은 우측에 앉은 학생. 저를 좀 도와주세요. 이게 사실인가요? 아니면 거짓인가요? 시작해보세요. 뭐라고 답하는지 지켜볼까요? 영화 보는 거를 좋아하는 사람은 파인애플 주스를 좋아한다. 영화 보는 걸 좋아하는 사람은 파인애플 주스를 좋아한다. 지금 논리 이론과 집합론에 대해서 알려주고 있는데요. 그렇다면 파인애플 주스를 좋아하는 사람은 영화를 좋아하겠네요. 여러분 모두 한번 생각해 보세요. 이것을 해볼 수 있는지. 여기가 입구입니다. 화살표 보이세요? 저것이 출구입니다. 동시에 공을 몇 개나 이 안에 집어넣을 수 있을까요? 어떻게 생각하세요? 공이 바구니에 몇 개나 들어갈까요? 아마 어떻게 하시는지 떨어뜨려 볼까요? 한 명, 한 개나 들어갈 수 있다고요? 예, 이상으로 오늘 에피소드 마칩니다. 깜빠나 공립학교에서 진행된 파이 때문에 바뀌는 삶 이상으로 마칩니다. 봐주셔서 감사합니다.
I know it works. I've seen it. I do it on a regular basis. Kids get engaged, and I am not a very special person. But we need to do is just show them where the right door is. And I want to just narrate a couple of stories here. One of the kids that you saw there, I was arriving, and it seems to be, we come on a bus, and we are like a rock band. A group of people coming from just building a TV set. The kids you have seen, some are 16, 17, but some are 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. All of a sudden, I get into one of these elementary schools. I open the door, and I see like a mob of kids. Like they come to me like if they were, I don't know, I was honey and there were flies. They all come and converse to me. And they start pulling my what is this? My sleeve. And one of them asks me, listen, how much is 1,000 times 1,000? And the other one from this side says, is there a number greater than infinity? And the third one just looks at me and she says, do you ever make a mistake? And I will never forget that. This is not that the parents told her, she wasn't starstruck by someone that she sees on TV. She really cared. She wanted to know if I ever make a mistake because there is this aura that we are there. And that's what we have to break. We have to start with, I don't know. Do you know what they asked me? I went with them to a class. And they were learning the multiplication tables. And it makes me suffer. And then one of them says, and do you know the multiplication table of 15? I said, no, I don't. Let's figure it out together. And it was so fun when they realized that they had the tools to actually go home and tell their parents that they learned the table of 15. You know that knowledge is power. And when they felt that they understood where the concept was, it was great. For them, they wanted to take pictures with me. I wanted to take pictures with them because I was growing up. I was a better person after I was talking to all those kids. Second story. As I told you, I used to teach 800 students at a time, average, sometimes more. Obviously, it doesn't escape you. I used to work, and I still do, work on TV. I've been working on TV since 1972. Soccer, sports, the NBA, basketball. And by the way, did everybody here know how many balls you can fit in a basket? Have you ever thought of that? Probably if I ask that question, if I conduct a survey here, and if I ask you how many balls, basketballs, can fit simultaneously in a basket? Probably most of you, you won't say anything because this is a good conference here. So everybody does something like this, I know. But the thing is that you can fit 2 at the time. And we don't know that. Not that we need to know that in order to enjoy a basketball game, but it's very interesting to discover that with them. This is what happened. First day, calculus. End of the first class at the university for these kids. Picture 19, 20 years old, approximately. They surround me. They have their first class at the university, and they have a professor who is a celebrity, kind of. And I don't want to sound arrogant. It's just a fact. They see me on TV. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a person. They surround me. And I started to ask them why, because in our faculty, at the University of Buenos Aires, you can study mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, geology, computer science, etc. So I started to ask each one what career were they going to follow. And they kept answering, blah, blah, until one of the kids tells me the answer is, I'm going to study mathematics and computer science. I was surprised because 2 careers, the first, it was kind of interesting. I just stopped. So I went again and I said, what made you come here? What made you start this career? And each one was answering, and all of a sudden, this one kid, he tells me when I ask him, what made you think of studying mathematics and computer science? And this is his answer. This was his answer. He says, well, because when I was in grammar school, I saw on TV a person proving that you cannot divide by 0. I looked at him before. I said, what did you say? He says, he was scared because he didn't know what if he had said something wrong. I said, what did you say? He says, well, I was in grammar school, and I saw someone who explained on TV that you cannot divide by 0. This was happening in 1996. 7 years prior to that, I was doing on the news, on the regular news, I was doing a column, and I proved that you cannot divide by 0 in the news, prime time. So when he said that, I said, what is your name? He says, Christian. Christian, I need you to come to my house. Well, he didn't want to come to my house. I said, but listen, I'm going to take you with my car. I want to show you something, and then I'll bring you back here. I didn't live that far away anyway. But I have the privilege of have everything recorded, that all my work on TV since we have VCRs and VHSs, we don't have them anymore, I have everything recorded. And I have everything on file. So I went to my home with him. I went where that VHS was, I pulled it out and I played it for him. He wasn't sure. But let me ask you, how many people in the news, in prime time, prove that you cannot divide by 0? It had to be me. Now look at this. Look at the impact that we have on kids. Look at the impact that we had with that little kid that was asking me if I ever make a mistake. We have to be very careful with what we do. Very, very careful. Because those type of fingerprints, imprints, name it the way you want, are going to stay for a long time. And that is the perception that is very difficult to fight against. That's why when people say, I hate math, it seems to be that it's a battle that we already lost. And I refuse to give up. When we see, and there are lots of mathematicians here, when we see that somebody is doing something wrong, we should say something. There is something that I saw in New York. They have like a campaign against terrorism, and so they say, if you see something, say something. Like if you see a package that is suspicious or whatever, say something. So I would withdraw, I would take that sentences, and I would say, if you, whomever has any type of access to schools and whatever, and if you see that there is something wrong, say it. We need to be more involved. Because otherwise, we are diagnosing something that we already know. We have failed up till today. And schools didn't have competitors. When I was growing up, the main source of information was at home and at school. But today, school is just another source of information. With the internet, social networks, and everything, school is one. Very important. Very important, because in schools is where we learn that we are not the king of the house or the queen of the house. We have other friends, other classmates. We have to learn how to get frustrated. It's not always our first turn. We are never again the kings or the queens of the house. And plus we learn structure also. We'll learn some type of discipline. We educate ourselves. It's very important. Please don't read that, what I'm saying, as I'm against or opposed to schools. But we have to adjust. In the old days, people were mesmerized when there was someone who had all the knowledge of the world. Well, instead of stimulating the creativity, the knowledge, now you go, if you don't know something, you Google it. You don't have to even go to your house. You Google it with your phone, with your watch, whatever. What we have to stimulate is creativity. And forget about the no's. You're wrong. Those red marks. No, wrong. F, 0. No. What? What? Why? Who are you to tell me that I failed? In what? And there was one story, and I would like for you to follow this story as closely. This is just a personal favor here. Because this was one of the most important moments in my life. And I didn't know, while I was going through it, I didn't understand what was happening until probably every time that I tell this story, I'm learning something new about it. So follow me with what happened, and that's why I asked Ingrid to let me use her tablet. I'm going to look for another page. Claudio is the producer of all my TV shows. He's my friend. He's sitting here. I have some friends here that came all around the world just to be here in this very moment, because it's very important for all of us, not only me. A lot of people coming from the US, coming from Spain, coming from Argentina, they came for this particular moment because we know that we have a task, something to accomplish. We have to change the perception that people have of math. And I'm 65. I won't live forever, and I'm not alone. People are new, and they see what's happening. It's boiling. Now we have to take the next step. Look what happened. I told Claudio that I was going to do this thing on the show, on Altered by Pi. I was going to grab a pizza. I was going to draw a pizza. And how do you cut a pizza? Say that there are 2 people to eat. Usually you cut it this way, this way, this way. Do you agree? Don't look at me like if you have never seen a pizza. This is a pizza. I mean, like you grab a pizza, you cut it, right? So what I wanted to do is I said, well, what I'm going to prove, Claudio, is that if you have a pizza, you don't have to cut it this way. You start here, like in the other way, but you can do this. The second cut, you can make it there. And excuse, I cannot type or draw very well here, but you can do this. Can you see this here? So this portion is equal to this portion. This one equals this one equals this, and this, okay? So the portions are not the same. The other way of cutting, every portion, all the portions are the same size. This is not true anymore, but you can divide the pizza in an even way. So when I suggested this to Claudio, Claudio says, why don't you do something? Why don't we do something? Let's go to the pizzeria, we'll bring 2 pizzas and you cut them in front of the camera. I said, no, Claudio, don't bring the pizzas because I know what's going to happen. I don't cut pizzas in the regular basis. I have only this pair of pants and shirt. I'm going to start cutting the pizza and everything is going to fall on me. Everything will be ruined. We will have to stop the recording. He said, I have a better idea. He says, why don't we tell Jose? Jose is the guy who cuts the pizza in the pizzeria. Why don't we bring him here? Well, make a long story short. All of a sudden, Jose shows up with 2 pizzas, dressed in white, even with a hat, like a chef. He had even makeup. He was so happy, but all of a sudden he gets into the studio and he sees the camera crew, people screaming, the microphones, the lights, everybody, the producers, the directors, and he froze. I said, Jose, it's very easy. Forget about this. Just talk to me. What we need from you is to cut 2 pizzas. I will guide you. It's a recording. The first pizza, you cut it the way you usually do. For the second, I'll guide you, okay? He says, okay, forget about the cameras. We start the recording. This is what happens. The first pizza, when I start the show, I start to explain what I was going to do. Before I said anything, Jose had the pizza, boom, 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 ready. When I want him to start with the second, I said, well, start the way you usually do. He does this. I said, okay, now the second line, do it close to the border. And he, who believes in me and believes in geometry and everything, he wanted to help me. He wanted to do it. He didn't want to do it exactly here, but he was going very short, only higher, just a little bit. He didn't want to go close to the edge because he wanted to help me. So I said, no, Jose, just go higher. And he still wanted to do it very close to the middle. Jose, go higher. But the recording was going, so at some point, I just pushed his elbow. I said, Jose, higher, close to the edge. And so what did he try to do? He wanted to do something like this. And I said, no, Jose, perpendicular. When I say perpendicular, he froze. And I realized then that he didn't understand the meaning of the word perpendicular. So I said, 90 degrees. I said, make a cross. When I said, make a cross, he understood, doesn't matter what happened after that. Everything went perfect. 2 morals of this story. The first moral is that Jose, as you can imagine, he wanted to help me. He wanted to do what I asked him to do. The problem was that the message wasn't there. He couldn't understand what I was saying. And how many times in life, picture schools, but in general, with your friends, with your family, with your wife, with your brother, with your sister, you ask for a favor. The other person wants to help you, but they don't understand what you're asking them. And they feel embarrassed to say, what? I don't understand. And that's a huge problem that we have. A person, it seems to be that if you say, I don't know, I don't understand, that means that you are less of a person. And that's so bad. Why? Who says, like, we abuse the power of the knowledge. When we have something, when we know something, we abuse that power. And I want to draw the second conclusion. When you heard me saying perpendicular, and I told you, Jose froze, because I realized that he didn't understand the meaning of the word perpendicular, what happened? You all smiled. You all laughed, as I did the first time. But if you think about it, think what it means. Jose isn't stupid. People are not stupid. When you are smiling, although you don't show it, your body language that they read, they realize that we know something that they don't. We have a power over them. We know the meaning of perpendicular. We know the meaning of 90 degrees. They don't. We are here and they are right there. And that is a huge problem, a huge problem. In schools and in life, if you want. The person who has the knowledge has to share the knowledge. This is the only way. There is a very unfair distribution of the wealth in the world. But not only that type of wealth, also the intellectual wealth is very unfairly distributed. We need to share the knowledge. If you know something, share it. If the other person doesn't know it, don't laugh at him or at her. Help her, help him. You're helping yourself, and more than that, if now in this day, if we want to change the way we teach, because I understand that a lot of people are accusing or blaming the teachers, professors, by the way we teach and communicate mathematics. And we're right with that. However, we would say, well, but who's going to teach them? Because we would have to train another set of professors and teachers because we were born in an analog era, and now we live in a digital one. So we have to adjust. You go to a teacher who taught for 30 years in a certain way, and now you tell, you know what, that's not going to work anymore. Now you need to bring computers, a laptop, an iPad. And they are like, what? I don't know how to use it. They freeze. Well, if we cannot say to a whole generation of kids, wait for 5 years until we teach and train and coach teachers and professors. No, we don't have time for that. But how do we solve the problem? Well, with what I call horizontal education. Instead of vertical, where the teacher is here and the students are here, again, the system of being, I am the one who knows and you are the ones who don't. Just do it horizontally. We learn together. We have to swallow the pride. Like a parent learning with the kids, with their kids, and I've seen that. So we go, and even the distribution chronologically, when you have the 6th graders, the 7th graders, if there is someone who knows something, just come here and share what you know. That's what we need. I learned, and I'm about to finish. I wrote my thesis in 1978, 1979. Our mentor, and there are people here who were students of him like I was. Unfortunately, he passed away when he was very young. How old was he, 44? Herrera, 44? 45? Well, it doesn't matter. He was our professor. He was one of the best mathematicians in the world in his specialty. He specialized in several complex variables. Miguel Herrera was his name. And Miguel has written a book which was perfect. Everything was there. He would come every day where we were working with Nestor Bucari, my friend, and we were studying together and working together. Every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, he would knock on my door to see what was the progress of the previous day. One day we were working with Nestor, and I said, listen, there was something that we couldn't understand. If what we understood was right, that meant that we had discovered something very important. So I said, there has to be something wrong here. So we were waiting anxiously the following morning for Herrera or Miguel to come to us. When he came, he opened the door and said, Miguel, we have found something very important. He says, okay, what is it? So I showed him, and he says, no, that's wrong. I said, well, let's see. And said, what did you write in your book? So he says, this is what I wrote. No, that's not what, I cannot conclude that. So he said, no, it must be this other thing. I said, no. Nestor said, no. He went 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Finally, he stopped. He sat down and he says, you know what, guys? I don't know what I wrote. I don't understand. And it was right what he wrote, only that he couldn't understand what he had written. And that was another lesson. So this one guy who was so highly respected and was such a great mathematician, he could say in front of his students, I don't know. And what problem do we have in saying I don't know? How many times you see in society in general that people are afraid, scared of saying, I don't understand what you're saying. Say it. Say it again, don't be embarrassed. It doesn't matter. You are not a worse person if you don't understand something. Say it. Let me see, maybe I thought that I understood it and I didn't. And to finish this, there are a couple of things, more things that I want to say. The education has to be public and free for everybody. There is a huge gap in between those who have, like I have pretty much everything I need and will probably ever need, and there are lots of people who don't have. There is a problem with that. In order to just make that gap narrow, we have to spread the education. But in order to do that, we need that education has not to be private, but public and free. States, and I will sound like a politician, but states have to take over and realize that education is a human right. And we need to do that. That is on us. That is our responsibility. So far, there are lots of things with mathematics, but we have the tools, and we will change it. This is going to change. And I hope I see it. But if I don't, we know that we have planted the seed. And that's all we care for. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the inspiring lecture, Professor Paenza. Let us thank Professor Paenza again.
Thank you. Thank you to all of us. Thank you very much. I was waiting for this opportunity, so thank you again. Thanks for coming. You made my life. Thanks.